Paul Daner, Mark Shalafoo, from listener questions to some running gags. Insider stories, ambush light, that dad life and respect for flags. Kick off the weekend, alright? It's the Growler Friday Show. It's Who Dey Light.
All right, welcome into the latest edition of Who Dey Light. Paul Daner Jr., Mark Shalafoo here with you. Happy weekend to you, Mark. How we doing?
I'm doing great. Who Dey Dark is behind us now. It's back to the light, back to the positivity. It's a good place.
It does feel like that. It feels like we've left the darkness behind, and now everything is so much lighter now. We don't have to talk about the county and the Bengals and the stadium anymore.
Yes, a deal is done.
That topic behind.
Thank God.
We can be done with it. We don't have to go back into what last week where we had to talk about death. We were talking about death and divorce and God. There was no dark piece of American existence untouched last week, but we did it all. We had fun with it.
People loved it.
Now a week of news that lightens it for everybody. I feel like we can truly be Who Dey Light once again.
I was a little concerned with how much people enjoyed Who Dey Dark. Like, it got some of the best feedback of the year where they're like, this show ruled. This was one of the best ever. And it's like, well, I thought it personally was kind of a bummer at times, some of the topics, but people were psyched about that. But yeah, we get to move forward a little bit now, which is exciting. Are you flying the Cincinnati flag right now? What's the current flag?
The Cincinnati flag is up. We will switch over to the American flag here very soon. It's one of my least favorite moments. See, it's a little boring in terms of flag culture. But I understand that this is its time as we get to the week of the 4th of July, and early July is an American flag season. So that switch over is on deck here on the horizon.
So you don't have a Hamilton County flag that you can fly for them actually getting this deal done?
Let me tell you, not happening.
Yeah.
Will I be flying a Hamilton County flag? But happy to support the city of Cincinnati here for a little bit more.
And then 4th of July.
Yes. All right. Let's get it. We're gonna get to a bunch of stuff today. We are gonna talk about the stadium deal, the news from yesterday, and kind of tie a bow around that topic and be done with it for approximately 10 years. Let's hope. So maybe I'll never have to talk about it again. I don't know. There's a lot of variables between now.
You don't think you're going to be here in 10 years?
I'm hoping the Earth is here in 10 years, Mark.
Okay.
And so
I'm just glad that
there's a lot of variables.
You weren't trying to say that you've got some unfortunate health news to share later in the show or something like that.
No,
We're like, I only have 8 years to live. Okay, good.
You know what? It's just, you never know. Life is fleeting. Okay.
And that's Who Dey Dark talk. Come back to the light.
Sorry.
You're going to be here 10 years from now talking about the stadium issue again.
That is Who Dey Dark talk. If you're thinking I'm here in 10 years talking about the stadium again, that's a very frustrating idea. But we will talk about it here one more time. We're going to get into the deal reached yesterday. We are going to, of course, take a bunch of your questions. It's the middle. It's June 27th. Okay. We're going wherever. And so you guys had a bunch of questions that went wherever. So we're going to do that. A bunch of stuff to get to there. Of course, we'll have some ambush light. We have a Growl Pal spotlight, a warm-hearted, happy Growl Pal spotlight this week. Less cocaine for the troops, more Growl Pal spotlight this week. We have the Meth Raccoon weird story of the week, which we teased last week, and I can't wait to get to it today. And talk a little bit about Cowboy Cody and dad life also coming your way, of course, as we get all of that stuff. But before we do any of that, of course, we have to remind you about our great friends at BetMGM, the home of all of our live shows. BetMGM right down there at the banks, right next to JBP. If you're looking for a great place to go before the Reds games, big series this weekend against the Padres, great food, good drinks, go play some bets, all of that stuff. A great place to go. Head on down there. But we're going to have promos for you this season, promo codes. We're going to try to get you boosts, all of this stuff. You got to go. What you got to do now is if you haven't signed up for BetMGM, go sign up for the app. Use the bonus code Growler, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager. Download BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code Growler, then deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. that means you will receive the same bet amount of up to $1,500 in a bonus bet if your bet loses. We're here. It's coverage, okay? If you make a mistake, they're here to help. So just make sure you use the bonus code Growler when you sign up. We did the bets show earlier, this best bets. Mo says all of the bets that he mentioned on that show, he stands by and has placed his own money on and done that. So if you've heard that and you think, oh, he's just saying things, no. He stands by and believes. So maybe you can go and win or lose with Mo as well on the BetMGM app. There was tons of stuff in the menu there to dive into. We went pretty deep. I'm telling you, throw around those Chase Brown 100-1 offensive player of the year odds.
Yeah,
100-1. I'm just saying 100-1. It's a large number for someone that could be a surprising centerpiece of the Bengals offense this year. All right, don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code Growler and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. All right, Mark. Story of the week. Story of the week has to be the Bengals agreeing to a new lease with the Hamilton County over Paycor Stadium for a $470 million renovation. It will run essentially 11 years. So it's 10 years, but it overtakes this current year. So through the 2036 season, then kick in again into the 2-year rolling extension things. The first one is a little different in terms of it can guarantee into place. You heard Denise Driehaus, the Hamilton County Commissioner President, talking about her kind of viewing it as a 13-year lease because they feel like that's very, very likely to happen. The Bengals contribution is $120 million, and the county is capped at $350 million. This is all good. The topic is behind us. This is a new deal. David Abrams received much praise. We said you don't want to know who these lawyers are, right, Mark? We were talking about this but I think it turns out it was very helpful for Hamilton County that David Abrams from Inner Circle Sports was here to kind of come in from the outside. He certainly received a lot of kudos in the meeting that ended in a 2-0 vote yesterday for the framework of this deal. So, I mean, how much people want to go into the details of it? I have a story up on The Athletic that kind of goes into some of the details of what this is and where it goes from here. But the bottom line is the Bengals are here, and we'll be back kind of in this spot in 10 years, kind of doing the same type of thing again. So it feels a little like kicking the can down the road a little bit, but it's fixing the infrastructure of the stadium. It's not quite. Remember the renderings of the entire riverfront has changed. There's this practice facility and these offices, and they're going to have this park and all this stuff and this new. And that didn't happen. And then that was at like 1.2 billion, and then it moved down to like 850 million dollars. That okay, no state funding has come through yet, so or maybe it won't. So that moved that number down, and we ended up at this $470 million renovation. It's going to take 2-3 years for them to complete. But the bottom line is the Bengals are here. We heard some commissioners talking about, I didn't think this would happen at all. A lot of calling it a miracle. There was a lot of thought that this was not going to happen, but it did end up getting done at the 11th hour a little bit. And so now stadium issue sealed, Bengals here. Can we get back to complaining about the defense again?
Yeah, it's nice, right? Like, it's nice that this is as a topic, because there was a very real chance that we were going to have to talk about this for the next 2 years. Are they going to be the Warren County Bengals or the Dayton Bengals, or where are they going to move? I'm glad that we don't have to do that. That is a huge W in my book. Like, I don't know what kind of feedback you got on your story. Were people psyched or people like hating on it? I mean, what
I don't know. I try not to get into it. It just stems too political. So I try not to dive too much into the comments on that one. I just try to put out there what was said, where we're at, and move on, because I hate having to broach this topic. I hate having to discuss it anymore. And I'm happy to not have to do it, because let's get back to, it's important. Like, I get it. It's important. Right. And there was, there were obvious threats and possibilities of conversations that would start happening with the NFL, with the Bengals, with the idea of exploring other options, whatever that would have meant if they couldn't come to an agreement here, but they did. And so they'll have to go through the details of finalizing it, but it feels as good as done. The Bengals are saying we're here, we're happy to be here. Everyone's making their announcements and thanking everyone. So we move on.
I think it's important too to keep this for what it is. We are happy we don't have to talk about this now for another 10 years. That's good for fans. They'll get the stadium things fixed up. But I saw too much of this yesterday where there was a lot of people that are like, all right, now that this is done, they can fully focus on Stewart and Hendrickson. That's next. And there's always got to be that next piece of the puzzle. Just take the W for what it is. We saw this with the T. Higgins and Jamar Chase extensions. They're like, all right, now that these are done, free agency gets to ramp up. Here we go. And it was like, okay, Lucas Patrick. There you go. That's what's next. So I think it's important just to, take any positivity that we get these days and just celebrate it for what it is without trying to contextualize it too much and put extra hurdles on it. Cause I don't know that this has a whole lot to do with Trey Hendrickson and, all right, now that we're going to stay here, we're going to get his deal done and he's going to magically come to the table.
Well, it does get a little bit more time for the front office to at least turn their attention to it. Understandable that over the last month, that's not even fair. I mean, year, this has taken up a lot of their focus, time, and energy. It's a huge deal. And it was kind of this cloud hanging over the entire offseason in a lot of ways. It was the biggest thing that happened this offseason from an organizational standpoint. And so I'm not saying that they all of a sudden now they're going to be like, all right, on to Hendrickson. I don't think it's necessarily like that, but I do think it does clear the decks and is a sigh of relief to have a incredibly large project, mostly behind them in terms of agreeing to the framework of this deal with Hamilton County. And, the Bengals are contributing more. They're paying rent. It's a new deal for the county. It feels like it's in a better spot, certainly than the last one was. Could it have been even better? Sure. I think both sides are wishing that it was a little bit different. And that probably is a sign that it went well enough. You're going to hear all kinds of angles. Everybody's got their side of it. I don't care. Everybody's going to be mad. It doesn't matter. At this point, I'm just here to say it's over. We move on and let's go back to talking about football, which I am ready to do. Are you?
I am. So I feel pretty much the same way about the Stewart and Hendrickson stuff that I have at the beginning. That's going to get resolved. They're going to be, a piece of the puzzle this year. I want to go into training camp in full homer mode, full optimism mode. Obviously things with the offense feel great. I feel psyched about that. They're going to be sick as hell. I'm really excited to watch the offense. I'm starting to run into a little bit of trouble right now, contextualizing like the defense, I know we've talked so much about Al Golden. He's going to fix everything. But then I sort of look at, these different position groups and it's like, all right, the defensive line, there's still some questions there outside of what we've seen Trey do. And even then it's like, I heard you guys talking about his sacks after, when the Bengals were tired of drilling and, the drop off after that age 30, all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, all right, that could be a little bit of an issue. The linebackers, Logan Wilson didn't play as great last year, maybe, and then there's two rookies that are thrown into the mix. I don't know if that's a position of super strength. I keep thinking about Charlie saying all the cornerbacks got benched for each other at different parts of the season. That sticks out my brain. And then we've got a safety room where they were trying to claw back money from a starter, which is not a great vibe to really go into the season with. Outside of Al Golden, I need some positivity here about the defense. Some reasons that the defense can be better than they were, because right now I'm starting to drift back to that Who Dey Dark place of like, wait, is this defense still going to suck? Like, is this still going to be a bad defense? What are the things that I can glom onto positivity wise there?
You summed it up pretty well. There's some questions.
There's not any positivity. I want the homer view of this. Give me some Miles Murphy 10 sacks. That's the energy that I want.
I think
Dax Hill,
I think the homer view
matter,
Yeah, the homer view is that it does mostly go back to the clean slate with a lot of players that the system and the talent didn't connect last year, and that a new system with that it wasn't the talent of the players, it was just that the system just was not matching them and had gone stale. That's the hope, right? And that Al Golden knows how to connect with them. So Dan Horde had everybody, all the 7 of us local beat writers that cover the team come on and he asked us all the exact same 5 questions. And it's a great, very jealous of his great podcast idea. It's up. You can go listen. You should listen to Bengals Booth podcast. Dan does a great job with that. But I started with, look, this is the question of the season. To me is, why is the defense going to be better? Al Golden is going to live up to his reputation. His reputation is for developing young players and getting the most out of them. That's been who he's been. It's what he built his entire career on, through the college ranks, through what he did with the young linebacker group here, what he did at Notre Dame. Like, that's his reputation. And you have 9 top 100 picks on rookie deals in major defensive roles right now. 9. Okay. So that's it. The ability to get more out of those guys and create a system, bring back confidence, however you want to put it, is the idea of the difference, is what this defense kind of morphed into the last 5 weeks of the season, which comes with the asterisk of some of the offenses they were playing. But by the time they played Pittsburgh and Denver the last 2 weeks of the season, they were clearly improved with these simplistic, just let these young players go play and play fast. They became a much more serviceable level defense, which is all that's being asked of them. So that's the hope, is that what you saw there was very much a dumbing down, but kind of a precursor to what they think that they will be this season. If that's what they are, that's enough for this offense to carry them. And if Al Golden can even make them a little bit better than that, that'd be cherry on top. But I think that's kind of the homer optimistic view of where the defense is at.
So I'm back to where I started, where Al Golden basically has to be the Ted Lasso of this defense, where he individually unlocks every single guy and escalates their potential and really gets them going. So, that's what I'll try and put all my energy behind. So, and that's the thing too, is the bar's pretty low. I guess that's the other point of what you just said that I can glom onto, is they don't have to be good. They just have to not be terrible. And then the team can be pretty good.
Yeah, I would say not 32nd. Anything between 22 and 14 probably feels like something you'd take today in points per drive allowed. So if they can pull that off, then maybe they'll be in a pretty good place.
Before we jump into questions and all that kind of stuff, I did want a quick plug for the social media question of the week that we put out there to the Growl Pals that we want to hear from them on. If they're following us at the Growler podcast on X and other social media platforms. This is the last point from Who Dey Dark before we move on to the future. We talked about what the worst moment was in the last 25 years on the field, and we were both unanimous with the Carson Palmer injury. A lot of feedback said that the 2015 loss was a lot harder for them to take, that meltdown. So that's the question. It's between those two, and that's what we want to finally settle once and for all over on social.
Yeah, which one was
more painful? Yeah,
I think it probably depends on your age.
Yeah,
I feel like if you were someone who's from the age group of your, 30, 35 or older now, you waited forever for a team to be relevant and to be good, and that team was good, and then you had that just diabolical way for the season to end in the injury. Well, if you're one of the newer fans, if you're a Burrow Bengals fan, or you're part of that, where you started to pay attention to them around that time, or whatever your age group is, I feel like if you're in that spot, then yeah, the 15-1 probably feels worse. And it was, but I think it's more of how much of the 90s did you experience? Because the buildup of that towards 05 probably makes it a lot more painful for people than there had been a decent amount of success that was happening. It was one of the most successful 5-year runs in franchise history in terms of wins. They just hadn't won in the playoffs, obviously. But 05, they hadn't won anything since 1990. And so I think that it's a little different when you have the buildup. That's my opinion on
That makes it an even more interesting question for people to answer because we can quickly assess their trauma level as a fan just by how they answer that question. So we want to hear from you on that one.
Yeah. Before we move on, I want to ask you guys something. Are you feeling stuck in your career and worried your team can tell? I hope not. Jumpstart your growth with IDEO U. Their online courses draw from design and innovation company IDEO's award-winning methods, and you can dive in whenever you're ready. There's never been a bad time to transform your professional life. If you ever feel overwhelmed by all the AI hype, you know it's important, but you're struggling with how to use it in your day-to-day work, IDEO U's AI and design thinking programs are designed for leaders like you, people who want to stay ahead, but keep problem-solving human-centered. It's practical, it's hands-on, it's built for real-world impact. Basically, become a better person. Learn more. Be out there challenging yourself. Don't be like me and Mark, where we're just doing Who Dey Light every single week, hopefully to eternity. Right?
Right. At least for
go out there, make yourself better. Go out there and figure out how to be a better leader. There's ways to do it. IDEO U is the way to do it. Class starts soon, so enroll today. And for a limited time, IDEO U is offering my listeners 15% off statewide. Can you believe it? Site-wide. Even more important. Well, and statewide. I think both. Go to IDEOU.com/growler. That's IDEOU.com/growler for 15% off. IDEOU.com/growler. There it is.
That'll turn you into the Al Golden of your own workplace, where you just fix everything.
Would it be bad if we found out that Al Golden, after going through the off season, was like, I had to take an IDEO U class on leading young defenses because this is more than I was anticipating? That'd be bad.
I'd be pretty terrified if he's like, I'm using Chat GPT to really design my new defense. I'm embracing AI. Because I'll be honest with you, I did ask AI how the Bengals should handle the Trey Hendrickson stuff. And it had some really good answers. Like, don't give him over 100 million, just maybe give him 2 years and a void year on there. And then it said, if you need to trade him for a second-round pick, you can at least ramp up the pressure with your defense because Lou Anarumo knows how to do that. And I was like, come on, AI, you need to be with the times.
They're behind.
He's gone.
I will say there is a really good story, and I'm here to promote The Athletic, of course, but this is truly a great story by Josh Kendall, who covers the Falcons for us. And I know I was hanging out with him a lot at the owners' meetings in Palm Beach. And he was working on a story talking to coaches, GMs about the use of AI within football for teams to try to find advantages and how that can be the next stage of, football analytics that's taken on such a huge role. And the story is fascinating and a lot of really interesting stuff in there. If you have a subscription, I recommend popping over and checking that out. And how that could be a really big storyline this season is teams that are finding advantages using AI when they dip it into the sort of data bank that the NFL information gives to you. So I think it's really going to be a fascinating thing to watch how that plays out of the season. Shout out to Josh on a really great story on what could be a fun trend this season.
Are you ready for some Growl Pal questions?
I am ready for some Growl Pal questions.
All right, this first one is from Austin. He says he's a longtime listener and fan of the show. He thanks us for all we've done to our bodies. And he says, in honor of Dave Lapham's birthday, what is the best Horde and Lap booth moment ever?
Oh, I could do a whole episode on this because there's so many good ones. I enjoy their camaraderie. I enjoy Lap when he loses it. I'm with Mo. We've talked about this. Lap needs to be in the Ring of Honor. And I certainly hope that happens this year, as much for what he's meant to Bengals fans as an ambassador, as a player, and what he is as an analyst. And people, I know people don't like the homerism, but I think that's what that broadcast is, and that's what it's meant to be, and it's meant to be fun like that. That said, I think the Bengals Packers Terrence Newman fumble return, otherwise known as balls out, is one of my favorites of all time in terms of in the booth. That's probably my favorite in booth ridiculousness of all time. That said, my favorite Dave Lapham moment came in 2012, and it was when the Bengals had gone into Pittsburgh and beaten the Steelers in a game that won it clinched a playoff spot. Josh Brown hit a game-winning field goal, 13-10 was the final. Geno Atkins dominated. I mean, he just blew up the entire game. He won AFC Defensive Player of the Week. He was unbelievable. It was prime. Like, if Geno makes the Hall of Fame, that will be a game that is shown on NFL Network, right? Like on replay. He was just a force. And I will never forget the Lap goes through the locker room with the microphone live, and he's literally going through the locker room trying to find players to talk to, and it's all live on air. And he's looking for Geno Atkins, and he just is going through the middle of the locker room, and he just decides to start singing a Geno Atkins. And he just starts going, Geno Atkins, douche, 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 Geno Atkins, douche, 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 douche. And then then it morphs into as he's still looking and he's still filling. He just goes, Geno Atkins is a man and a half. It's so good. And it's so like Lap at his core, just giddy that the Bengals won and that Geno owned the trenches, who was, it was kind of the most breakout game of a breakout player at a young part of his career. It was just fun. I love it. I need to have that audio. I don't have the audio. I used to at one point, and I think it got lost in a purge somewhere. But I need to pull that back out because it's my favorite Lap moment of all time.
I mean, the Growl Pals always come through for you when you ask for something specific like that. So I'm sure one of them has that audio or could track it down and send it to us at the growlerpodcast@gmail.com so you don't have to do that work.
That's also, right. That's right.
Where do you get your, Dan and Lap listening in? Is that just all like what's surfacing on like social media afterwards or something? Because you're not like, you don't get to listen to them during the game. I don't get to listen to them much because I'm either at a game or watching it on TV. So how are you really processing them these days?
Sometimes I will listen to them during the game because I enjoy it, but I don't as much as like some people listen. That's how they watch the game in the press boxes, even with
really.
I know Butchie does. I know Hobson does. Some people do. Occasionally I might put it in, but usually I don't. But yeah, it's what surfaces on social or I hear about or talk to them or somebody be like, oh, you got to go listen to that call, or Lap said this, or Dan said that, or whatever. Like that stuff surfaces, and then stuff gets put out. It's just so I'll usually go back and pick stuff out, or people will send it to me, or whatever. I love listening to some of those. I think their calls are always. I'm always curious in big moments to hear what their calls are like because they're usually unique.
Yeah, yes. Unique is a great way to put it, but and you're right. That's kind of, he does the role that you want in that. You don't want somebody who's going to just be constantly harping on the team or be a bummer. You want a Who Dey Light personality. And so that's what he does well. We do have our next one is a run passer boot from our guy Ryan, who was previously featured in the Growl Pal Spotlight, raising money for Ainsley's Angels and beating his brother thanks to the Growl Pals in fundraising. He has a run passer boot. Any member of the Growler running a marathon over this next year, Trey Hendrickson is out-sacked by Miles Murphy this year, or the Bengals go 0-17. How would you run, pass, and boot those three?
Well, I mean, the Bengals aren't going 0-17.
Right.
But now you're not a runner. You're not going to run. And you're certainly not going to run a marathon. Okay.
No, I run a couple miles most days. That's it.
Charlie's not running a marathon.
No. He's eating cookies. If there's a cookie marathon, maybe. But yeah, he's not a marathon guy.
Jay's out here mowing anybody's grass with his shirt off and enjoys the sun and summer. And maybe he would be the one to do it. I just don't see anybody do it. But if I'm comparing that to the Bengals going 0-17, I guess to me, I'm going to say the least likely thing to happen is that any member of the Growler runs a marathon. next. So I'd pass on the Bengals going 0-17 because if Burrow and Jake Browning both got hurt or something, like there's a scenario where like you have no quarterback, right? Or they're pulling someone off the street. That's the only scenario where this happens. And I apologize to Who Dey Dark drop, but I'm trying to answer the question honestly. Bengals go 0-17, and then Trey Hendrickson's outsacked by Miles Murphy this year. Sure, I mean, compared to the other two, yeah, there's a world where that happens. I mean, it's much more of a world than 0-17, and suddenly I decide I can run 26.2 miles. Like, that's not happening. So we know that's for sure not happening.
Is there not like a bet or anything that we could do to convince you to run the flying pig or something? Like what's the number that it would take if we're like, all right, the Growl Pals are raising money for charity to get Paul to run in the flying pig. How much money would it take?
It's literally not possible. Like my body cannot do it. I've had multiple back surgeries, Mark.
Hey, it's worth it. What if they raise $10?
All right, make it 20.
They just want to see you. So you've had back surgery.
I guess I could walk. I mean, do you have what is the lowest pace that's allowed?
Don't limit yourself because you've had back surgeries. You can be an inspiration to back surgery guy everywhere.
I'm unwilling to do anything other than just walk 26.2 miles.
That's fine. Maybe we'll get you to walk the flying pig.
Why don't you? It says any member of the Growler. So I would like to throw you into the ring here. I'll make it $30.
Okay. Maybe we should do that then. We'll really get the fundraising ramped up and let's just throw a number out there. If we can hit $100,000, then yeah, we will race in the flying pig to see which one of us can win.
All right.
You'll commit to that right here live on the air?
If I see the check.
I mean, all we need is a Growl Pal to win the lottery or to get very successful with their BetMGM picks. And then
if you won the lot, do you imagine you win, you got very successful with your BetMGM picks. You cash out $100,000 and you have to tell your family, I think I'm going to use it on this Growler runs a marathon bet. That sounds like a way better usage of this money than, an addition to our house.
Well, it goes to charity, so there's a tax write-off there for you anyway, because we mentioned charity, and that is fun to tell your family. Yeah, we could go to Disney World for the rest of our lives, but instead we're just going to take my favorite podcast and torture the hosts. That's what we're going to do with this money. That's how we're going to spend the lottery winnings.
Appreciate the question, though.
All right. Our next question. This is a little bit fun. I like this one. So it's, hey, Paul, hey, Mark, how you guys doing? Blah, blah, blah. All right. Since you mentioned the international audience on the podcast, he figured that one of those loyal listeners abroad might as well say hi and send in a question. So this is from Felix in Germany. He says, what would be your favorite destination for an international game for the Bengals? If you're counting only the options that exist currently or have existed so far. So if you're talking like Mexico City, Brazil, London, the Germany, Spain, Dublin, Melbourne to come next year, just limiting it just to those, which would you pick? He also wants to give a big shout out to, I'm going to butcher this, but I'm going to say Cable Midland High in Ona, West Virginia, just outside of Huntington, class of 2002. He was an exchange.
Is this like Nip High football rules? I feel like just dropping that into the middle of this email.
I like it because he was an exchange student and he said he watched a lot of football and the host family took him to Paul Brown Stadium for a game. And he said it wasn't the best introduction. He's like, yeah, it was the NFL, but God, they were trash. Even a German that hardly knew anything about football could see that. But hey, he's still a Bengals fan. So obviously it took hold and it worked. Also kind of wild to be an exchange student in 2001, 2002. You're here for 9/11. That's not our best moment to experience American culture.
No,
Bengals football culture at that time too.
It's a tough spot to adopt America and the Bengals simultaneously. No question.
Shout out to him for surviving all of that. But what would be your favorite international destination if you got to pick one?
All right, if I'm ranking you mentioned the current ones that are sort of out there. I would put Madrid at the top. Just not having been there before. I'd go Madrid, Melbourne. I've always wanted to go to Australia. It would be a long way to go in season.
Yeah.
I'd want to stay longer. I'm pretty sure I'd you'd find me taking a couple of weeks off after that and just staying in Australia I'm not going to just go all the way out and then come back, go out on a Friday and come back on a Sunday. I don't think you're going to see that happen. I'll be
You'll
out there
be
a lot longer.
podcasting with some Aussies out there. That'd
Absolutely.
be fun.
We're big in Australia.
Aussie
We get
Charlie.
Yeah, we get Australian listeners all the time. I've gone on the Aussie football podcast before. I always enjoy when they would shout me out. It's usually about this time of year. So I would love to go out there. I would love to go to Melbourne. Munich would be next for me. But I kind of wanted to get to a little bit outside of I mean, Munich would be great. So those are my top 3. Then I'd have about 100 spots, and then Mexico City and Sao Paulo would be the next 2 after that. I don't have a ton of interest in going to Mexico City or Brazil. I personally would rather not. So that would be my ranking.
What do you have against Mexico City and Brazil?
Mexico City feels a little crowded.
Just a little
high
bit
in elevation, and I just would rather not. Brazil, I hear too many stories. I heard stories from people that were over there during the Olympics in Rio and stuff, and I'd rather not.
Yeah, I get that. That makes sense. I don't know. I would love for you to try and put your list of 100 other places you would rather go to, because I bet I could find some faults with some of those. But this is the international portion of the show, by the way, because our next question is from Lee. He says, hi from the UK, land of full kit wankers, which we did get some full kit wanker mentions this week on social media from people that went to go see Chase Burns pitch for the Reds. I guess that there were some full kit wankers at that game, if that would surprise you. Some Yankees fans that were wearing not only the full jersey, but the full pants too, like the full uniform, just walking around the concourse. I was not prepared for that image.
No,
when we're talking full kit wankers, we've talked about it on the show before, and I was always fine with it because the original question was a guy wearing Bengals sweatpants and a Bengals hoodie to walk his dog. I'm like, yeah, sure. Go all out. Seeing the full uniform walking around the concourse, that's a little jarring. I think I'm anti on this now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm usually pro stirrups, but probably not in this. It got a little when it went all the way down. Yeah, and then that photo, by the way, that many people sent to us with an FKW in the wild caption, was taken down. It was deleted because you had replied to it. I was just looking for it before this show. It got taken down. I wonder if there was too much blowback over the FKW getting spotted at Great American Ballpark that it became an issue, and they're like, it's ruining my reputation. I've got to pull it down.
Yeah, he's like, I can't have this out there. I'm trying to get a job, and everyone's just going to see me wearing a full kit wanker outfit. Also, shout out Power Stack, since we did talk about the Reds there briefly. Yeah. They're doing a great job. And Lee said that he loves Charlie and Brian on the Power Stack show also. And now
how
back
could you not?
So he says after 37 years of waiting, he's finally going to be attending his first regular season Bengals game this season against the Bears. His Irish buddy from Belfast is going with him too. He's a Bears fan. So he's got a few different questions. First off, like, he's got some questions about what to do, where to tailgate, all the kind of recommendations for early November in Cincy. We get this a lot. We get a lot of people that are like, hey, I'm coming to town. What are the best things to do? And so we're going to do that episode as we get closer to the season, because I know we've gotten this a few times already. But what we want is some Growl Pal input on that. What are your favorite spots to tailgate? What are your must-dos for your out-of-town visitors? Or if you're somebody who's a season ticket holder in a different city, I've met those before. What are some of the spots that you have to hit every time you come to town? Let's try and crowdsource that one a little bit so we can get some good answers, and then give him a fuller picture. He also wants to know if his friend is going to be killed wearing a Bears jersey, sitting alongside the Who Dey faithful at the stadium. No, he's not. No. And I will say this, you're just as likely to be in a fist fight between two Bengals fans as it is, like, that's just the risk of going to an NFL game. I saw somebody get knocked out before the national anthem was finished at the Monday Night Football game, and they were both Bengals fans. I mean, that's just kind of the price of going to an NFL game, is likely seeing a fist fight somewhere, but it's not going to be because your guy's wearing a Bears jersey. No one's going to attack him for that. He also wants to know, this is a nice, intriguing part of this as well. Ohio State is playing Saturday night. Is it worth the 2-hour journey to Columbus to watch them? I say yes, right? Like if you're coming from across the ocean, go see some college football as part of this trip. I don't know who Ohio State's playing, but I imagine it's somebody not too terrible. Yeah, then make that trip.
Yeah. Go check it out. I mean, I don't, you can dampen your experience on Sunday if you stay in Columbus and then have to drive back in the morning, and then because you're going to need to try to get down to BetMGM when our show starts on time, which we start pretty early for the 1:00 games. We get going at like 10:00. So you're going to, have to leave pretty early and be ready to rock and roll down at BetMGM by the time we get there. So that's going to be hard. And to maybe if you could get a noon game in Ohio with the Ohio State game, that would be helpful. And then you can come back that evening and be ready. And then you check all boxes.
Yep. But we will get into that question a little bit deeper later in the off season here. So if you have your suggestions, send them to us so we can include those. You ready for some quicker Twitter questions now?
Sure. Let's fire these off.
All right. Jake says, why are the Bengals so prideful in not trading away their players? Some of their trades have had great results, like Pete Johnson for James Brooks or Carson Palmer for that first and second round pick. What's your answer there? Why are they so prideful about
I don't know if they're as prideful. I think they're hard to deal with in trades. I think they don't always. Teams have a hard time trading with them. I feel like they're not getting the best deals, or it takes too long, or they move on, or whatever. And some GMs and front offices love being involved in all the trades and doing ton of the trades. And there's all these younger, more active GMs. The Bengals just have never been that way. They're more conservative in that regard, and I do think they're a little harder to deal with. So I don't know that it's pride over not wanting to. I just don't think they reach deals as easily with other teams as some other GMs are more willing to do and go back and forth on.
From Steve, we've heard all the angles of the Trays of Our Lives saga, but I'm not sure we've heard a prediction. So run, pass, or boot, the most realistic outcome. Trey plays this season on his current deal with no extension, 1-year extension through 2026, or a multi-year extension beyond 2026.
I will run with the multi-year extension beyond 2026. I mean, what that looks like in terms of guarantees and how the Bengals could get out of it potentially is probably why it's a multi-year. I would then pass on the 1 year. Maybe they try to do a Danielle Hunter type situation and get Trey decides that is the best option for him. Maybe he does that. I don't know. And outside, and then playing the season on the current deal, I feel like is far less likely. I don't think there would be no extension and he just plays it out. That's probably the least likely of all the options, but it's all on the table. This isn't like 0-17 or the marathon situation.
Right.
Okay? I think playing it out on the current deal isn't totally off the table. If Trey just says, screw it, I'm just going to try to get to free agency. It's the least likely of these three though.
What if they didn't give him the extension? They just gave him more money just for this season. Does that change where you rank that in those three? Like if they're like, all right, instead of giving you the 20 million or whatever you were going to make, we'll give you 27 or 28 just for this season to keep you happy. And then you can go test free agency. Does that change where you rank those?
Not necessarily, because I just don't know how interested. I mean, Trey, that might be where Trey lands on this. I guess it's possible. I don't know if it changes how much it changes it. I still think they're probably the same order because they would still probably want to have another year on there. And I still think the Bengals would want to have the one more year on there, even just for spacing it out or however they wanted to do it. So I'd keep the same. I'll stay solid on that.
This one is from Mark, different Mark, but of course, great name. You'll get your question answered. On a scale of 1 to Plaid, how excited are you for Spaceballs 2?
Very. Spaceballs is one of my favorite comedies of all time.
I didn't know they were making Spaceballs 2. When did that happen?
I saw the trailer about 3-4 weeks ago.
Dang.
Look, yeah.
What's it on?
Mel Brooks.
Is it going to the theaters?
I think. Okay. I don't want to say because I don't know for sure. But I saw the trailer, and so I'm excited for anything that they want to do in relation to Spaceballs. I'm on board. Love it.
Yeah, I got to go track down this trailer. I did see the Happy Gilmore 2 trailer, and that looked fun. Like I'm all on board with that.
It points out how many trilogies and prequels and sequels and everything that has been made about different movies since Spaceballs 1. Oh, and it's the same Star Wars going, the words going through space, just like in the first Spaceballs, and it just goes on and on and on. It's great. It's fantastic. Great trailer, as you would expect. She's gone from suck to blow. a line that I've used many, many times covering Bengals games.
How about an ambush question? You ready for some ambush light? We got a double one today.
Let's do it.
All right. So first, this is from Kyle. He's like, I know it's too late for Who Dey Dark, but are we all just going to move on with Paul embracing the Growl Pal moniker after he buried it on early editions of the show? I think Paul should potentially be known as a Prowler, which was another name suggestion as a punishment for not having the vision to see what would become the Growl Pal army.
Yeah. I own this. I wear this. It grew on me. My initial reaction was not great, really, towards all of them. But I think I just had a very much a negative feel about all nicknames that were trying to be created. And I don't know why. And then but that's any good nickname, any good moniker has to organically become a thing. Okay. And I admit my first reaction was negative and it wasn't great. But as it went on, and then we just started dropping it in and saying it just felt right. And then there were shirts, and I was like, you know what? You're right. It is great. I apologize for being so negative about it at the beginning, but it didn't feel right initially. But, it was very organic, and I appreciate everybody.
I don't know that we need to call you something negative just because that's what he wants as a punishment. I think a better punishment would be you running a marathon. That's the answer. It's like you really, botched the Growl Pal thing, so now you have to run 26 miles.
Yeah, probably not.
Second ambush question for you. All right, imagine the Athletic CEO suddenly asks all NFL beat writers to relocate and cover a different team. You can choose freely from the other 31 teams. Which one would you pick, and which assignment would be your least favorite?
Well, I'm not moving. So I guess
that would have been my guess. So like Indianapolis then, so you can keep your family here?
It would be whatever was closest to here. Yes, I guess the Colts would have to be my answer strictly because I'm not moving. Like my family's here, kids are in schools that we like. I'm not moving. So the answer would probably be none. I would have to probably just be like, hey, and anybody that has an opening on your staff anywhere, at any job, I'm interested because I'm not leaving Cincinnati would probably be where I would start. But I guess if I have to do this situation, in my ode to our Polish base, I would say Indianapolis because of how close it would be.
Oh yeah, this was one from one of the 5 Bengals fans in Poland.
It says greetings from one of the 5 Bengals fans in Poland. I'm seeing this now.
I want to hear from the other 4. Let's power rank our Polish listeners. So you don't have a city that would be your least favorite?
No. I mean, I don't know. Miami? Probably not.
What a bummer that would be to live in Miami.
I don't personally like Miami. Okay. It's just, that's me. Okay. I don't personally like Miami. I would probably,
if you're comparing it to Buffalo, like Miami against Buffalo, I mean, come on. You really want to go live in Buffalo?
I mean, I don't want to live in any of these places. I want to live here. I've made that clear. I don't feel like I should have to rank things. I mean, maybe. I don't know. If I'm doing the full ranking, I would probably even take Buffalo. Yes.
Ahead of Miami. That's crazy.
Yeah.
This is a crazy question. This ambush light has gone to a dark place. If that's
I know. I apologize.
Listen to. We got a Growl Pal spotlight this week.
Yes.
And this is from Cody. He says he's a big fan of the show, regular listener. His question is, can I please get a shout out for the newest Growl Pal to join the ranks? His wife and he just welcomed their second son, Peter. So he wants a Growl Pal shout out for Peter. Everybody is happy and healthy, he says. So, there he is with the little.
There he is.
Dude. We need to get Cincy shirts to make a Growl Pal onesie so we can start really getting these people on board. Also, this shout out, you better be playing it for him. We want this to be the first podcast this kid ever listens to. We got to get in early with the audience. We're going to become the new Miss Rachel for this generation. they're not going to want to watch that. They're going to want to watch old episodes of Who Dey Light and the Growler podcast. So Cody, make sure, congratulations first and foremost, but also you better be playing the shout out for the kid.
No doubt. I feel like we could be particularly great. Maybe we have a niche in figuring out that we actually help babies go to sleep. Like, we are the ones, when you're sitting there, you're in the chair, you're in the rocker, and you just play us, and immediately the crying goes away and it's just soothing and they fall right asleep. But maybe that could be us. I feel like there's a lot of money in that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, I guess. Now that you're putting out this new business venture for us to put babies to sleep, I don't know. I think we've got some marketing hurdles. If we're like, hey, these two guys will put your baby to sleep, it sounds like we're going to go around killing your kids. So
we'll work on the wording.
Yeah, right. And then that'll become our new business, is just putting infants to sleep. Shout out Cody. Shout out Peter. I do like I think this is fun too. Like in those first moments, I don't know if you had this experience, but with our first kid, we're very particular about what she listened to. Like, we wanted a song that we were going to play to have that special first child moment. And so we did that, my wife and I, but my phone was just on shuffle. So like after our cute little moment was over, it just brought up some rap song. And then our daughter heard like some expletives very shortly into her life. So that's not exactly the right vibe you want with a newborn either. I think I would have preferred the podcast in that scenario. And we never did that again with the second and third kids. That was just like a first kid, like, here's what we think this is going to be. And with everyone else, we're like, all right, we don't need any of that ceremony with that.
Second kid syndrome is just so wild. And actually, to connect us to the Bengals actually were very kind. And when we had our, first daughter, they sent a football with like her name on it and her birthday and stuff, a little
cute.
Bengals football. Yeah, it's still in her room, like very cute. Yeah, the second kid doesn't get that stuff. Nobody cares. No one's ever sends gifts to anyone for the second kid. You're not getting a football or a baseball or maybe even anything from grandparents. Like, they're just, it's just like, oh, there's another one now. We don't have to celebrate that, do we? Like, you already have one. You're already a parent. It doesn't matter. You just go further into the abyss of being a parent. Like, that's the gift that you get.
Yeah, and the first kid too, they get the flowers for being the first, and then the second kid has to just grow up, eating that, and then someday becoming a stand-up comedian and podcast host. That's what happens to the second kid. It's just life.
It's life.
You ready for the meth raccoon story of the week?
Yes.
I gotta say, some of these shorthand for our segments, if you don't listen to the show on a regular basis, probably sounds insane. When we're like, all right, this week we've got meth raccoon story of the week. We've got cocaine for the troops. We're doing all of these. Probably sounds completely insane.
No, but this portion of the show is for the real ones, the ones that stick around, the ones that love this stuff. So that's why.
Yeah, the people that like having fun. The people that are still listening now, you guys are our favorite listeners. Don't tell everybody else, but you guys are our favorites. What is our story this week?
Okay, so this has been reader submitted. We teased it last week. The headline is, and many people sent this to us due to probably the title of this segment. The headline is: Kentucky man known as Cowboy Cody released raccoon into packed restaurant in misguided revenge plot. Quote, seen some crazy stuff. Thank you to Daryl Kahn of the New York Post for writing this on June 10th. The lead goes: this masked bandit didn't come to steal. He came to bite. A Kentucky man known as Cowboy Cody let loose a terrified raccoon in a bar out of revenge for being turned away from the establishment Friday night, according to police and a bartender who witnessed the incident. Police arrested Jonathan Mason, 40, which, by the way, we have a joke. You never want to have your name, age, ever listed in the newspaper. It means something. You're either dead or in jail. Okay. Daner, 44. You never want to see that. Police arrested Jonathan Mason, 40, on a slew of charges, including assault, after he released a raccoon into the Big Apple Grill and Bar in the city of Murray, according to a police press release. Apparently, he had trapped a raccoon earlier in the day on his farm, and he had been carrying it around with him. A restaurant bartender, Mary Hafner, told the Post. I'm a bartender, so, I've seen some crazy stuff in my time, but nothing like this. Mason, dubbed, quote, Cowboy Cody by locals, lives alone on a nearby farm and has caused trouble in the past at local bars, employees told the Post. Hafner, 37, who has worked at the Big Apple for 5 years, said Mason was already drinking when she encountered him Friday night. The bar had previously banned him over a drunken mule incident. Then the story just moves on. It just glosses over the drunken mule incident. Yeah. Mason always liked her, Hafner said, and she thought she could convince him to leave without causing a scene. Quote, I came out from around the bar and asked him nicely to leave. He said, oh, I see how it is. They sent a pretty face out here to distract me. Initially, Mason complied without complaint. At first, I was like, phew, I diffused a big issue. But moments later, he returned armed with a raccoon. She said the raccoon waddled into the crowded restaurant as customers looked on in confusion. It was more scared than anything, she said to the raccoon. It was pretty upsetting for him, I bet. Hafner told her fellow employees to let her handle the raccoon, but another employee didn't listen and tried to snatch the furry fiend by his tail. It bit him, she said. He had to get rabies shots. The video shows the employee crawling on the floor, chasing after the raccoon as he weaves his way through the tables and chairs. The raccoon then bites the worker. Hafner was able to lure the critter onto a chair where she casually wraps him in a towel and heads for the exit. I'm no city slicker, Hafner said. I'm a Kentucky girl. I had no problem catching him. The worker who was bitten had to get rabies shots. This was not the first time Mason was involved in an animal-related crime. I love Cowboy Cody. Last winter, Mason was arrested twice for leading cops on a wild, drunken chase through city streets on a mule. Big Apple employees had to call the police on Mason when he allegedly beat the animal with a whip in the parking lot. That I don't like. Mason led police on a drunken chase on the mule on the night of December 7th, and then did it again on December 9th, according to police. Imagine being the police when on the 9th, you're like, again? Are we really doing this again? The mule again? Mason refused to leave his car when officers pulled him over later that night after releasing the raccoon. He also wouldn't roll down his window so the officers could question him. Eventually, cops placed him under arrest. He went into the jail and is facing charges on third-degree criminal trespass, second-degree assault, resisting arrest, and failure to maintain insurance. I love Cowboy Cody. I'm here for Cowboy Cody because you know what? Sometimes you got to live life by your own rules. And if you get turned away, you're like, fine, I'm showing up with a raccoon. This is an old school, old West way of handling situations. Today in America, guns and fights and all this. No, just show up somewhere where you don't like someone and unleash a wild raccoon. This is how we used to handle problems in our country.
It is always fun how social media will coalesce around somebody that's in the news who committed a crime, which on its own is usually pretty heinous, but it's fun because people get on board with it. So for a while, it was the Free Luigi movement, like let's move on from that. The guy shot a healthcare CEO in the face, or health insurance guy, whatever that was. Let's move on to Free Cowboy Cody, let's get this guy a reality TV show at least. Like imagine if you could combine his story with just a normal like cops episode. Like every week he's just leading them on a different adventure. You're telling me that we can't get 10 episodes of that on Netflix? Like we would be a huge hit. Like that's what we should be doing right now, is developing that show, not doing this podcast.
And if we could get more people to start handling everything the way Cowboy Cody does, these car chases that happen where police are chasing criminals and they're going 100, 150 miles per hour, they're insanely dangerous. Yes. Some innocent bystander always gets hurt or killed because of them. If more people were just trying to run away from the cops on mules, we wouldn't have this problem. We'd be saving lives. And if we could make that become a thing where anytime someone commits a crime, they hop on the getaway mule instead of getting into the getaway car, it's just a lot better and safer for everyone. We should all strive to be more like Cowboy Cody. I have a question for you, Mark.
Sure.
In this situation, how long do you think it would take you to corral an angry raccoon in a bar?
Gosh, I don't know that I'm going to. So the person that got bit, tried to pick it up by the tail. I don't think that's the smartest move. That's not, I think that's pretty quickly goes to bite territory. I think that I could get it out of the bar it's not going to be as fast as I want, but I think I could do it in under 5 minutes. And I'm in this, like, I need a tool. I need a tool, not just a towel. I'm probably going to like use a broom and herd it out with the broom, just because I used to play hockey. So that's kind of my go-to there if I've got a wild animal in a bar. I've only thought about this situation right now. It's not like I walk around with a plan of like, hey, what happens if somebody brings like a raccoon into Nation Kitchen here while we're doing this show? I haven't really thought about that, and I'm not encouraging a Growl Pal to do that. But I think I could do it in under 5 minutes. How quickly could you get it done?
I think you're more likely to run a marathon than get that raccoon out of there in under 5 minutes.
I mean, come on, it's a raccoon. It can't. I guess it depends on how big this bar is.
It's angry. It's been in a cage all day. Cowboy Cody released it. It's gonna bite. The moment it starts biting, I'm not getting close. Right? Like I'm just not engaging. I look, everybody on their own. I leave.
Yeah, I get everybody out of the bar and then I burn it down, and then hopefully the raccoon leaves on his own volition at that point because of the smoke inhalation. He's like, I'm going to go back outside.
Yeah.
But I you know what? I'm with you, Cowboy Cody. If this is, when you're furious at somebody rather than getting a gun or doing something dangerous, you release a raccoon. If O.J. Simpson had released a raccoon instead, he would have gotten to keep his Heisman Trophy. It would have been a totally different story. So yeah, if that's what we could take away from this, I'm on board as well as the reality show, which I do want to see.
I mean, I'd settle just for Cowboy Cody coming on our podcast. If we can get him the internet, and I got a feeling that he probably doesn't have it, but if we can get him somewhere near a stable internet connection, and Cowboy Cody, if you're in Murray, Kentucky, please let him know that the Growler would love to have him on to talk about all of his mule-related incidents and raccoon and really what he's going to do next. And honestly, it makes me want to go to this bar and hang out just for a day, stop on my way somewhere on vacation maybe, and just see if he turns up and see what's going to happen today and be prepared for all things. I'm ready for it.
I think we have to bring the podcast to him is what we're going to have to do.
Yeah. We show up with the mics and we set up shop inside of this bar and just hope that Cowboy Cody shows up. I love it. What a great story.
It was a great story.
I mean, maybe we should change the name of the segment to the Cowboy Cody weird story of the week instead of Meth Raccoon. It feels more approachable.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier to sell on a new listener to the show. And we're like, we're talking about the Bengals. We got your questions. We're going to do the Cowboy Cody story of the week. That's a little bit easier than the Meth Raccoon.
Yeah.
Especially
but still an ode to the animal that did sort of start this entire
that kicked it off.
Yeah.
Dad
where are you going next? Let's
stand up.
Plug,
yeah, stand up plugs.
Stand up.
So I am going to be pretty much local for a little while. I'm off the next few weeks, but then I'm starting to add dates now. So either July 21st or 28th, we're still settling on that. I'll be in Nashville for the Nate Land live show. And I'm probably sticking around there for a few days of shows in Nashville. And then starting in August, I'm going to Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, and Louisville. And then in September is I've got a show in Cincinnati, September 5th at Commonwealth Sanctuary. And then I'll be in Vegas from the 22nd through the 28th. And I know we have some Vegas Growl Pals, so maybe we can get them out to a show, or we'll do a game watch or something like that.
Yeah. Vegas, you're at Brad Garrett's place, right?
Yes, down there at the MGM Grand. So we'll be on the strip for 7 days, which is a long time to be in Vegas. But
yes,
I've heard nothing but great things about the club. So I'm psyched to do the club.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it'll be a good time.
Hopefully we get some Growl Pals out for that. Dad life. I want to start. Are you familiar with Tamagotchis? Do you know what these things are?
I mean, I knew what they were 30 years ago when, we had them as kids. Like, I was a little bit tangentially aware of them. Being a pro sports obsessed kid, I wasn't too big into the Tamagotchi world, but I knew kids that had them.
I never even heard of these things before.
Oh, that's how old you are. Gosh, you didn't have them as a kid?
I don't think so. I didn't. I just definitely never heard of them until they have entered my life now as a parent. And they're these little electronic things that are meant to be essentially like children. that you have to know how to feed them and give them attention. And when you're not doing that, they just do the world's most annoying beep. Like if you're a Seinfeld person, you know the organizer episode where Elaine throws it out the window and it just beeps constantly. This is to me what it sounds like. And I don't understand why we have to invent toys like this. Because guess what happens? My kids go to bed and that thing just starts beeping out of nowhere. And I don't want to learn how to feed it. I don't care about how to feed it or make it stop. I just want it to stop beeping. Why do we create things that beep out of nowhere, even when not being played with? From the bottom of a box that I thought I had gotten rid of this thing and everyone had forgotten about it. We all had let it, like, we forgot that it was in our lives. It went to the bottom of the toy box. Everyone was happy. All of a sudden, it starts beeping underneath all the other old toys to make them go over there, pull it back out, be obsessed with it again, and see all the other old toys I had also gotten rid of in the process. I do not understand why we do this to ourselves, and we tolerate companies that create things like this. They need to go away. They should be banished.
It sounds like you just described a Black Mirror episode. It sounded kind of dystopian. You're like, the kids get these digital kids and they have to feed them, or it beeps and ruins the family. Like it does sound kind of dystopian the way you described it there. I can't say this with any degree of certainty, but I think if you handed Cowboy Cody a Tamagotchi from scratch, he would figure it out. He would know how to take care of it. And if he didn't, he would just chuck it into a crowded bar. And maybe that's what you need to do with your kids' Tamagotchis, is give it to Cowboy Cody and just throw it into a bar and leave it there.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I unleash
a raccoon,
angry raccoon in my house until the thing stops beeping. That's also an option. I'm not far from that with the Tamagotchis. I'm not far from that. What do you got?
So we have our gymnastics travel schedule for the next competition season, which picks up in the fall, winter times. And it's got me thinking about this because our biggest travel this year, we have to go to Tennessee for a meet. But this past year, it was Columbus. That was the farthest we had to go. And these gymnastics meets, if you can get your kids out of them, like, that's what I would recommend. Don't even let them go into that sport. Because it was $250 to register your kid for the competition. And it was out of the city. So we had hotels for the whole family. So we're already, $400 deep there. Then you get to the actual meet and they have the audacity to charge you for tickets to watch your own 9-year-old compete. $20 to watch my daughter do amateur gymnastics. That is more expensive than if I was watching her play professional basketball. Like, that's crazy. Do you know how many WNBA tickets you can get for $20? 30. You can get 30 WNBA tickets for $20. It's insane to me that they charge that much. And also, they don't even give you a ticket. All they do is give you a little X with a Sharpie on your hand. So it's like, I can go buy $1 gymnastics tickets at Walgreens and then just start giving them out to everybody for free after I buy a Sharpie. And that might be what I do for this next season.
That is how are they rationalizing when you've already paid $250 to then be charged? Is there any rationalization happening at the door?
Do they think that I'm not going to watch my kid? Like, I took her to a different city and I'm just dropping her off. I'm not paying to attend. Like, I get it. I understand charging if you don't have a kid there. Like, then it's kind of weird, right? So it's like, hey, it's $20. That keeps the weirdos away from just watching random gymnastics. But if you have a kid there, you've already paid your money. Like, what are we trying to do? What a grift. And I know that youth sports has a lot of that out there. But even like if you're going to watch your kid in a high school football game, you're not spending $20 on a ticket. That is insane.
Yep. There's only one real solution, I think, for you here with this is the next time that you go to one of these, and as soon as they go to charge you $20 to put an X on your hand and go watch your kid, you unleash an angry raccoon in the gym and you show them that they should learn a lesson here.
I've got my tickets right here in this cage, and I start rattling it.
Do it the way Cowboy Cody would if you tried to charge him $20 to go watch his kid. There's only one way out. From
I hope he doesn't have a kid. That does tarnish the Cowboy Cody saga. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next week, it's vacation time for me. I'm away. I will have an episode. I've recorded an episode that I think you'll like, where myself and Charlie Goldsmith and Jeremy Rao from Fox 19 do a draft of the most interesting Bengals of the 2025 season. Players, coaches, mascots. We'll see if anyone drafts Who Dey. Who is most interesting in the 2025 season? That will be coming your way next week. Mark and I are going to take a week off. It's the 4th of July. Be with your families. Enjoy yourself. And then we'll be back after that, checking back in. Of course, check-in Power Stack's still there for you, still available. I am actually part of my trip is popping into Chattanooga because we're going down into the Smoky Mountains. And so I'm going to pop into Chattanooga. I'm going to pop into Power Stacks with a review of the Chattanooga Lookouts because, you know, the first half champion Chattanooga Lookouts. So I'm going to regale Charlie and Brian with my thoughts on Sal Stewart and Cam Collier and whoever the other top prospects are that I get to see on the Sunday game down there. So, and Power Stacks is rocking right now as the Reds are becoming a thing. Make sure you are subscribed and telling your friends about that because it is an awesome show.
Leave a good review too. That helps too.
Leave a good review, rate, subscribe, all the things that you need to do to help that show grow because they are doing an awesome job over there and it is growing fast. So get on board now. All right. Thanks everybody for listening and we will talk to you next week. Have a good one, everybody.